Welcome to the Change Chasers podcast, where we embrace transformation, challenge the status quo, and equip ourselves to chase the changes that lead to growth. Friends, my name is Mandy Ledford, and I'm going to be hosting this and trying to do my best as I'm going to likewise the same be growing as we're going through this journey together. And so I'm excited to say that in this being episode 1, that today's episode, we are going to be talking about becoming a change chaser. And that's the name of the podcast. The Lord kind of led me to pursue change, right? And so why not name a podcast that? I'm all about alliteration. So change chasers that are listening, thanks for the gift of your time. I hope that at the end of this that you are inspired, maybe challenged and encouraged and all of the good positive things. And so I will tell you all that I am a work in progress. That I say, some days I feel like that I am driving the hot mess express bus, like chicka chicka chicka, right? I mean, all the things, and trying to be and do. And man, y'all, some days are just better than others. I don't know if anybody is giving me an amen right now on the other side of this, but my fellow hot mess expresses, welcome. I'm glad to be sharing the space of time with you. And I will tell you that I really am very hopeful that we will be able to grow and we'll be able to be inspired together as we continue through this journey of the game called life, right? But pursuing growth. So the whole idea behind all of this is that we will be pursuing growth and change and accomplishing maybe even some dream big goals that you have for your life. And so when I stop and I think about what does it mean to be a change chaser? Well, for me, y'all, I think that it's about stepping boldly into the unknown, seeking opportunities to grow and living with intention, even when life feels uncertain. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not a big fan of uncertainty. I like to know what is happening, when it's happening, what we eating, where are we going, what are we doing, right? But also when I stop and I think about real talk, the reality is sometimes, I don't know if y'all are like me, but there's been times in my life where I have resisted change. And so we're going to explore how to pursue change with purpose and resilience. So whether you're navigating a personal transition, a career shift, or simply feeling stuck, perhaps this episode or this whole podcast, I hope, will inspire you to embrace change as a catalyst for your next, one of my favorite words, breakthrough. So I'm hoping as you are listening, you're going to be inspired, but also I want to let you know that you're not alone. I don't think hearing that phrase it's like a heart hug to me. So sweet friend listening, know this, you are not alone and you have got this. So you can do whatever it is that you feel called to do. I always like to say, don't allow stinking thinking to creep in because I believe that you are awesome. And I believe that you've got what it takes. Or else you probably wouldn't be given time to listen to some old country bumpkin, aka Mouth of the South is what I call myself. And so I want to say, hey, today's a start, right? And so I'm excited to be able to dive in together, to be able to think through, hey, how can we grow as we go, right? So friends, as we go through, I'm going to call like my transition points throughout this podcast as hot takes, because why not? Hot takes just sounds really super cool rather than saying some phrase that is kind of stuffy, right? So we're going to have hot take number 1. And my hot take number 1 question is, what does it mean to be a change chaser? I believe that change chasers are people who, number 1, embrace growth. They see change as an opportunity to evolve and learn. Number 2, they seek out challenges. They step out of their comfort zones to discover new possibilities. And number 3, they navigate uncertainty with confidence, right? They adapt and then they even find ways to thrive even when the path isn't clear. I don't know about y'all, but I like my path to be pretty clear, right? I mean, I'm all about things going my way, right? And I don't like a whole lot of uncertainty and that kind of thing. But change chasers, y'all, I think about we have to be willing to navigate uncertainty with confidence, though. And so my question for us in thinking through all of this is, why chase change? Why chase change, right? Why? because I think that growth and comfort do not coexist. This has been a life lesson that I have learned in some seasons of my life the hard way, that growth and comfort don't coexist. And I also think that whenever we stay in the familiar, then we might feel safe for a season, right? But reality is, I think that it keeps us from reaching our full potential. So, change, I do believe, is inevitable. I believe that change sometimes, even though we might resist change, unfortunately, when we do, I found in my own personal life, I don't know if you might be like, amen, because it only creates stress. Sometimes, whenever we're supposed to change and do different things, it creates stress because we don't. But chasing it, I think it puts us in control in a different way of how we can respond, right? So chasing change and why and how. And it leads me to hot take number 2. Why do we resist change? And so, that's a heavy question, right? Why do we resist change? And so before we talk about chasing change, I want to say let's acknowledge why it's so hard for many of us. Real talk, reality. My point number 1 is just thinking is that fear of the unknown. Anybody else got fear of the unknown? Anybody else like to know what is happening, when it's happening, what time, where we're going? Again, what's going to be in my day today, right? Just the fear of the unknown. We crave certainty. We crave peace. We crave, some of us, control because it makes us feel peaceful, doesn't it? It makes us feel as though we have this sense of certainty. And so when I stop and I think about how I'll crave certainty, and then I think about, oh my gosh, like I get this feeling of if I try to step out into what is unknown, then that can just feel really risky. And so I know in the way that I've grown up and all of the hardships and a lot of really tough stuff that I've been through, I am a rule follower. I don't know if you're out there too and you're like, I do not like for things to go kind of awry because I feel peace, right? Whenever things are smooth sailing. And so when I think about my point 2 in this section is when I think about losing control. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like to feel like I have loss of control, right? Because I think about when change often feels like it's happening to us, then man, alive, that can be overwhelming, right? I don't like being overwhelmed. I would rather be feeling good and A-okay, right? And so we get attached to the idea of being in our comfort zone. And I say that with quotations because what exactly is our comfort zone, right? Like, I mean, if we're going to be growing as we're going, then sometimes, y'all, we might have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone because the reality of it is that we cling to what's familiar, even when it's no longer serving us, even when it's no longer sharpening us. And so I always am trying to adapt. I'll just tell y'all, as I was creating some content for this, I was like, man, I also need to have some mindset shifts as I have been getting sharpened and thinking about ways that I can grow and I can change and wanting to inspire you to do the same. So my mindset shift is instead of seeing change as a disruption, try seeing it as an invitation. Because every change is a doorway to something new. And when I stop and I've put that perspective on paper, and I'm like, that is awesome because you know what? That leads to growth, right? Every change is a doorway to something new. I'm liking something new if it's good, right? And then that way I can grow, and maybe I'm going to grow in a new opportunity. Or maybe we can grow in a deeper understanding of ourselves. How super cool is that, right? So now I'm going to share with you my hot take number 3, friends, is how to become a change chaser. So you might be listening and going, all right, give it to me, Manny, let's go. How do I become a change chaser? Like, what does this even look like for my life? And so thinking through about ways that we can shift from resisting change to actively chasing it. Point number 1 is change your perspective. Change your perspective, friends. Like I always have this saying that I'll say, we got to pivot our perspective, right? And so the reality of it is instead of fearing change, y'all, we can see it as a chance to grow. And you can ask yourself, like, what can I learn from this? How can this move me closer to my goals? And so I go through and I've tried to come up with some examples for us. And I think, man, I don't know about y'all, if you've ever had a time in your life where something didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go, right? Maybe it was a big project and for whatever reason the project failed. And so instead of seeing that as a loss, then the pivot of perspective, right? And shifting our perspective is to say, okay, what is the valuable feedback that I can learn from this and be able to grow as I'm going, right? How can I have future success? What changes can I make? And so it allows me to stop and think about ways that we can be pioneers for our future and growing as we're going is that, yeah, we can start with small changes. I think that big life changes can feel overwhelming. And so my greatest advice to us here on this episode is the idea of just starting small. So try something new, maybe each week, maybe every other week if that's more in your comfort zone. And hey, if you're like, no, I'm going to roll out snail space, then hey, try something new every month, right? I mean, whatever works for you. Maybe you're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start working out. Well, that might look different for each person depending on how physically fit we currently are at this stage of our life, right? Maybe we're going to embrace a new skill or maybe even develop a fresh new routine. And so, just hopefully inspiring you to think about ways that you can make small changes to be able to build your confidence and then help you to be able to develop a mindset of being able to be adaptable, right? To be able to be sharpened and to be able to grow. And so, I was thinking of that. I think it's called an idiom. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever that expression that says, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, is what the expression says. Okay, so I don't even know where that came from. Here's what I want to know. Who's been eating elephants, right? I mean, anybody else on the other side that's listening and being like, I mean, who has ever decided, yeah, give me some of that elephant over there? Thankfully, we don't eat elephants in Georgia. And so the expression, though, it kind of always cracks me up because everybody will say, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Essentially, you eat everything one bite at a time, right? And so just thinking through the idea of that expression, though, that idiom is that we tackle a larger difficult task by breaking it down into smaller, manageable steps, right? And so the idea of that is, hey, whatever some of your goals are, maybe a new goal once a week, or like I said, every other week or once a month, some way, somehow that you are choosing to sharpen yourself so that you can have some growth. And so my next point is I wanted to make is thinking about how we can embrace failure as part of the growth process. Because, I mean, real talk, I've had some failures in my life. I don't know if you have as well. I'm assuming you have on the other side of listening to this because I don't know anybody that's perfect, right? That I mean, embracing failure is not always easy, but if we have that pivot in our perspective of saying, whew, I'm going to be growing as I'm going, let's go. Lord, can you help me to be able to not have fear of failure, so to speak? Because when I stop and think about that expression of fear of failure, y'all, I immediately think about fear of failure. It often holds us back, but failure, I do think, is a natural part of growth. Because if we will choose to not allow failure necessarily to be like the be all end all, woe is me. I call it Eeyore syndrome, like, woe is me. You know, if we will see failure not as an end, but as a stepping stone. How cool is that? Like, that's a cool little pivot of perspective for us all to stop and thinking about. One of the quotes that I put together when I was developing this content, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That is pretty stinking good. I'm going to have to put that down in this because it says this, a quote to remember for you guys is every success story is built on a foundation of failures that taught lessons. I like to say that's a word, right? It's so good that every success story is built on a foundation of failures that taught lessons. And so, I don't know what lessons you've been taught in your life. Some of them might be hard knocks lessons, right? Just some really tough stuff. And maybe you've endured some unfairness. I mean, maybe you've went through some really hardships, maybe financial, maybe health, maybe family, personal. I mean, whatever it has been in your life. I just want to encourage you of saying that, hey, way to pivot your perspective and not allow the enemy to take you out of the game that God has for you to be in, to live and to play and to run every play with excellence. Because I think that when we choose to not allow failures to be what kind of holds us down and keeps us stuck in the muck in the middle of our mess, then, if we choose to say, hey, failure, like this mistake, this didn't go exactly like I wanted, but hey, it's a stepping stone to get me to my new growth. And a way that I think that we can grow is that my next point I wanted to make for us, friends, is thinking about who we are surrounding ourselves with, right? So surround yourself with other change chasers, like other people who are willing to do the hard work, to create good, healthy habits, to be able to say, hey, you know what, I got you, let's go. Like the whole iron sharpens iron, as it tells us in Proverbs and Scripture. And so I want to encourage you of thinking about and maybe just seeking out, paying attention, like who are the people around you that are influencing you? Who is helping you to approach life in whatever way that you are? What does your heart posture look like? Who is making you better, right? Who in your life is inspiring you and helping you to grow? And so I'd love to encourage you to surround yourself with individuals who are growth-minded and unafraid to take risks, who are willing to do the hard things, right? Willing to not always do what they've always done, because if you do that, the expression says you always get what you've always gotten. And so thinking through about an awesome practical tip is, join a community group, find like-minded people, maybe even connect, be it with church or with somewhere in work or, athletic group. Wherever it might be, but find somebody else that's on another level. I've heard that before. Like find somebody who's doing what you want to do, and then get to know them and find out, like, how did they get and do what they did to be able to accomplish where they are, right? And so there's always somebody more advanced than us, and what a beauty that is, right? That we get to learn from other people. So I encourage you, maybe find a mentor or a person or organization, or just somehow, some way, something or someone who inspires you to embrace change. Because I think that is such an awesome way to pivot our perspective and help us to personally grow. All right, friends, my next hot take, number 4, coming at you, is real life stories of change chasers, right? And so thinking through about a story of somebody I know, a career transformation, like maybe this is you, maybe you're similar and you're like, oh yeah, ooh, that hits me in my feels. And I think about, ideally, this story I want to share with you guys real briefly is that I know someone who left a stable corporate job to pursue their passion for teaching and coaching. And so this transition wasn't easy, wasn't cheap either. It cost this fella a whole lot of money to go from this corporate executive making big bucks to being a high school teacher and coach. And so even though the transition wasn't easy, but by chasing the change, he found fulfillment. He found a new, renewed sense of purpose. And y'all, it's so cool to tell you that he is now one of the best and the most winningest high school football coaches in Georgia. Such a cool story. He had the courage to step out of his comfort zone, leave that stable corporate job making a lot of money to go teach high school and to coach. And story number 2, thinking about overcoming personal challenges. So another inspiring change chaser story is that I've known people who have overcame major health challenges, right, by shifting their mindset. So my encouragement to each of us, if that's you, maybe you've had to endure some really tough stuff, and I want to say I'm sorry. If that's you, if you've been going through some stuff, be it you personally or someone in your family or just somebody that you care about. So instead of focusing on limitations, though, people who are change chasers are willing to embrace the opportunity to rebuild their lifestyle with healthier habits, right? To be able to overcome their health issues, maybe be it diet, exercise, taking better care of themselves. And so the encouragement of that too, if that's something that you're like, yep, I need to be growing as I'm going in those areas. Because, hey, the real talk is that we all welcome some help along the way, right? We all are better together is one of my mentalities. And a key takeaway I think about is that I really believe that change is rarely easy. And maybe you'll agree. You might be slapping your steering wheel right now, give a little slap, tap, tap. Like, change is rarely easy, but it often leads to breakthroughs that you didn't think were even possible. And so even though it might not be easy, it might lead to a breakthrough. And so I encourage you to just keep on keeping on, fight the good fight, right? And so I want to give you my next hot take. Number 5 is practical steps for chasing change. So here's how you can start chasing change today, sweet friends. Number 1, identify an area of growth. And so what's one aspect of your life where you feel stuck? And then commit to taking one small step toward change this week. My point number 2 on this hot take is set a clear vision. What does success look like for you in this area? Write it down and keep it in front of you as a reminder. I love that verse from Habakkuk 2:2 is write the vision, make it plain. So write it down, keep it in front of you as a reminder. Number 3, take action, even when it's scary. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. So start before you feel ready. That one's been a tough one for me to learn, but here I am doing a podcast on it all, right? Like start before we feel ready. Number 4, reflect and adjust. So regularly reflect on what's working and what isn't. And then remember, chasing change, sweet friends, is a journey, not a destination. And I hope you're really hearing me on that point, because as I was preparing for this, I'm like, that's a good word right there, that chasing change is a journey, not a destination. Hot take number 6 is embracing the long game. I don't know about y'all, but I'm let's get it. Let's go. Let's have this change. It's going to happen quick, right? But the idea of knowing that if we really have real life transformation, that sometimes, unfortunately, almost always, I shouldn't even say sometimes, almost always, it doesn't happen overnight. It requires persistence. Change requires patience, and change also, I believe, requires faith in the process. So, sweet friends, hot take number 7 that I want to throw your way today is that the most rewarding changes in life often come from the most uncomfortable steps. So if you're willing to chase change, then you'll discover strengths and opportunities and possibilities that you never imagined. And so that's just some things that have been on my heart as I've been preparing and thinking about, as I am a person who I'm declaring I am a change chaser. And so maybe you're also going to embrace that as well and decide, you know what, starting today, I'm inspired. I'm listening to this old country bumpkin from Chatsworth, Georgia, and I am going to chase change. I'll be excited to go on this journey with you in whatever ways that you decide that you're going to chase change. So as I end this episode, I want to encourage you to think about, like, what are your ideas? What steps, what ways do you think that you need or want to call yourself up? I will oftentimes say when I speak to youth, like youth groups, women's events, whatever, I'll say, I'm not calling you out, but I'm calling you up. And so as you're listening on this, I want to encourage you with that is, what do you want to call yourself up to? And so in thinking about that, I believe that there should be some call to action, right? Some call to action steps. And so as I'm closing out this episode number 1, I want to leave you with these closing call to action ideas and points and task, bullet points, however you want to view it and see it, is that your challenge for this week is that identify one area where you've been resisting change, and then take one actionable step toward embracing it. And then if you're feeling so inclined that you're courageous and you want to share your story with me on social media, then go find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I'd love to hear how you're becoming a change chaser. I'll go and I'll put a post out, and I'll ask you to go comment on that and just share, like, what are some of your change chaser goals? I don't know if we can say that 5 times fast, can we? But what are your change chaser goals? Like, in what ways do you want to build a better future? And so I would love that if you would do that, because that'll also help me to build better future content that we all would like to hear, so that we can sharpen one another as we are growing, as we're going. So if today's episode has inspired you, then please share it with someone who may also need some encouragement to embrace change. And Also, I'll just go ahead and ask you, don't forget to subscribe, because that's what all the podcasters say when I listen. So I'm just going to play this game too, right? Go ahead and subscribe to the Change Chasers podcast. And that way, hopefully, I'll be able to continue to pump out some more tips and stories and just some ways to help you to be able to seek growth and some real life transformation. And I want to say thanks again for the gift of your time today. I'm truly baffled and blessed to be on this journey with you. Thanks for joining me on this journey of chasing change. I hope you'll always remember every great transformation begins with a single step. Until next time, keep chasing change and living with purpose. Goodbye, sweet friends.